Many of you know Ravensbury Park well, but the park we see today is just the shadow of a much larger private estate, which was once home to not one but two magnificent houses, both of which have now completely vanished. The story begins with a truly remarkable man, George Parker Bidder Sr. In the early 19th century, he was famous across Britain as a child prodigy known as the Calculating Boy. At just 9 years old, he could perform enormous calculations entirely in his head, astounding everyone who saw him. Thankfully, his talent didn't go to waste. He was sponsored to attend Edinburgh University and became a brilliant civil engineer, partnering on many major railway projects with Robert Stephenson. He was the son of George Stephenson of the rocket fame. His work brought him to London, but it came at a terrible cost. The unhealthy environment was blamed for the deaths of 4 of his 7 young children. Seeking a healthier life for his family, he moved to our area, first buying Mitcham Hall in 1848. All 5 children they had after moving here survived. He then began buying up the land that would become his estate, and in 1864 he moved into the grand 17-bedroom Ravensbury Park house. The grounds of his Ravensbury Park estate consisted of up to 200 acres, including both banks of the River Wandle. So what happened to this first great house? Well, after the death of George Parker Bidder Sr. in 1878, it was occupied by his son George Parker Bidder Jr., the QC we know in connection with Mitcham Common. The 1881 census shows that George Parker Bidder QC was living in Ravensbury Park House with his wife, 4 daughters, 2 sons, as well as 9 servants. After George Parker Bidder QC died in 1896, there were some family disputes that led to the estate being broken up. The house and some of its grounds were bought in 1900 by a very famous figure, Catherine Gladstone, the Prime Minister's wife. She used it as a convalescent home, and it served as a military hospital in the First World War, before finally being demolished in the 1940s. But that's only half of the story. Just as the old house was changing hands, the Bidder family built a second home on the estate. In 1910, George's eldest son, Herald, built Ravensbury Manor House near the river. It was a beautiful home in an 18th century style, with a charming panelled dining room and lovely paved garden. The house was built on the north side of Wandle Road, facing the River Wandle. On the other side of the road stood his private chapel and a garage for his car. In this Ordnance Survey map, published in 1913, I've marked out the area of the house in black, and the black arrow is pointing towards the front of the house as seen across the river, as we just saw in that photo. You can see that the house is at an angle to the Wandle Road. Now we have a plan available, and what we're looking at is the yard across the road from the main house. And here's the plan of the house, which as I say is at an angle. The green arrow I'm using in this diagram is to show the entrance. I'm going to rotate the plan so we can read the labels correctly. So the outline of the house is shown here. Top left hand corner, fuel is where he kept fuel, I guess wood for wood burning fires. Then you can see the green arrow is pointing to a forecourt area leading to a porch. And we've got a photograph of the entrance showing where that arrow is pointing. So we're going into the house and we're going up to the porch. There's the porch. I've got a nice photograph of this. Let's do a zoom in. It's a domed top to this porch area. A couple of columns. Can make out the door. Once you're through the porch, here's the living room. Just like my living room. Well, no, it's not at all like my living room. Probably no one else's, apart from in stately homes, because this was considered to be a stately home. This was the Ravensbury Manor House. So the front of the house, as I say, was the part facing the river, away from the road. And there were some steps leading down from the front door there, the front entrance in the middle of the building. You can see these on the left hand side of the photo, the steps leading down, go across the garden and go up steps, and to the left, the trellis. And that was the chapel in the background. So I'm going to point out these finials, these stone globes, spheres on the top of the brick piers, because these two are the ones at the entrance, You can just make out one across the road. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. And here's a photograph of the trellis, taken from a slightly different angle. See those spheres on the right hand side. And here's the puzzle. This brand new elegant manor house was demolished just 20 years later. Why? Well, the world was changing. After World War I, London was expanding rapidly. Colonel Harold Bidder, DSO, must have realised his country estate was being encroached by the suburbs. The final straw was likely the London County Council's plan to build the enormous St Helier Estate, with 10,000 homes right on his doorstep. The house was put up for sale, but there were no takers, so eventually the land was sold off and the house demolished. And we can see the size of the St Helier Estate on this aerial photograph on the Historic England website. The photograph was taken in 1934. The first feature we can see is this major road cutting across from the bottom right to the top left. That's the St Helier Avenue. And we can see over here the Rose Hill roundabout. And that building there was called at that time Raleigh's Cafeteria, who became the Rose Pub. So, St Helier Avenue, the 8217, the Reigate Road. And if we go down this photograph, we're going further north, we can see the extent of the St Helier Estate. And down here, we can actually see the Wandle Road. That's Morton Road. There's that chapel. And there's the house at the angle. At this point, it's probably being demolished. So is anything left of the Bidder's grand vision for Ravensbury? Well, almost nothing. But if you walk down Wandle Road, take a look at the wall of the earlier homes development on the south side, near the corner with Morton Road, you will see some brick piers, topped with stone finials in the shape of spheres. That wall is all that remains. And what of Ravensbury Park? Well, in 1929, the Mitcham Urban District Council approached Merton and Malden Urban District Council with a suggestion that they join forces and buy the remains of the Ravensbury estate to establish a park. It cost £6,000, and the Ravensbury Park we know today, of 16.5 acres, was formally opened on the 10th of May 1930 by George Lansbury, MP, Commissioner of Works. Oh, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please press the like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Make sure you click that notification bell so that you can be notified when new videos about Mitcham and the area come available. Bye for now.